You. What up, y'all? It's your boy, the Hood Nerd, back again with another episode of the Deep Dive. I took a lot of time with this episode, so the more I go with these, the more I find my voice, the better I get with it, and the more comfortable I become touching on some subjects that I've always wanted to touch on. So, with this one, I know you guys see the title, Covert Incest. What is covert incest? To me, that's the biggest problem Black men are dealing with in the community at this point. Covert incest occurs when a parent or caregiver relies on a child for support that a romantic partner would typically give. And another name for it is emotional incest. It does not involve any sexual abuse. Now, you know, people love the song Renegade with Jay-Z and Eminem. And they always say, oh yeah, M killed Jay. But I always tell people, no, to me, Jay had the better verses because I could relate to what Jay was saying. And I'm going to read some of these lyrics in here before we start making our way through all of this. He starts off by saying, do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it? And that's just him asking, are you truly listening? Can you comprehend what I'm really telling you? When you say somebody is better than me or out rapping me, are you really dissecting what I'm saying? Can you really hear it? Or do you just hear it? Those, see, I'm influenced by the ghetto you ruined. That same dude you gave nothing, I made something doing. What I do through and through, I give you the news with a twist. It's just his ghetto point of view. I'm influenced by the ghetto you ruined. Who ruined that ghetto? We're going to get to that. And it's the one thing I always tell when people look at Jay now and he does certain things in this. I'm not sure what Jay doing now. Jay is giving you everything in his music of who he is as a man, what he stands on, all of that, who he views as friends, associates, all of that. If you listen, then you understand that. If you don't, then you walk away from his music confused at certain relationships. But let's get through it. Let's get to it. Mommy's knocked up because she wasn't watched over. Knocked down by some clown when child support knocked. No, he's not around. See, already, there's a hatred for the man. Mommy's knocked up because she wasn't watched over. He's absolving her from all accountability again. But he won't even blame grandma because who was supposed to be watching over mommy? Grandma and grandpa. So let's keep it moving. Now, no, he's not around. Now, how that sound to you? Jot it down. I bring it through the ghetto without riding around, hiding down, ducking strays from frustrated youth stuck in their ways. So again, knocked down by some clown when child support knocked. No, he's not around. No accountability for his mother sleeping with a man and having a baby with someone who she hadn't carefully vetted. And see, I know a lot of people listening to an episode yesterday. I listened to Wild D yesterday. Because this episode was going to be totally different until I listened to yesterday. And then I said, you know what? We need to have this topic pronto. I ain't guaranteed tomorrow. None of us are. So in my head, I was going to save this for the 100th episode. But we'll do it now. And Finn and his wife are having a conversation about equality and abortions. And, you know, it's the woman's body. But then that's not equality because that's so-called both of your child. Both of you guys' child in there. Equality would be both parties being able to have a voice on whether that child stays or not. But see, it's only our child when she decides, you know what, there's something for me to gain out of having this kid. Then it's our child. Now, if she's ready to go play in the running the Olympics, still want to go to school and finish up, hey, I want to be with this guy over here, or this ain't my husband's baby. Then she won't murder the child. And yes, Finn, I'm going to use that word. It's murder. That's all we have to call it. See, y'all do a lot of dancing around with words and playing around with stuff so you can sugarcoat stuff, so you can pander and make people feel better about it. Just call it what it is. It's murder. You don't really have to keep dancing around certain things. But you don't want to call it that because you don't want to offend certain people. And you understand, yo, my mother may have had an abortion. My girl may have had an abortion. And she ain't a murderer. Yes, she is. She showed you already what she's capable of, what she thinks of a human life. She showed you that already. When they can do that, that is what they think of a human life. Now, of course, to justify and adhere to this, they'll say, oh, no, it's not really a baby. But I also read to you that story a couple of weeks ago about what? When that guy pushed that girl down and what was she, 6 weeks pregnant? What did they say? They charged him with doing bodily harm to an unborn child. I think it was attempted homicide for that child also, unborn child also. So for 6 weeks, it's attempted homicide and harm to an unborn child. But when that woman aborts that, it's not homicide at that point. It's just an abortion. It's a whole nother word for it. Cool. We ain't gonna worry about it. We're gonna absolve all responsibility. Because for me, the accountability always will fall on the woman at the end of the day. I tell my daughter that, my oldest. Whether that guy stays with you or not, guess what? Once you decide to have that baby, that's on you. See, at the end of the day, you're going to be the one holding the bag in the situation. That's accountability. See, when you start pointing fingers everywhere else saying, what about this person, that person? That ain't accountability. That's you looking to give somebody else some of the blames so you can kind of shake some of that off of you. But he goes to finish this line saying, we'll start there, hiding down, ducking strays from frustrated youth stuck in their ways. Who's raising? Why is he in a situation already where he's ducking strays? And who's raising those frustrated youth stuck in their ways? I'm going to show you and link all of this to you today, what the Gynocracy is and the damage that's been done. And I'm going to show it to you guys using these lyrics, a few articles, and the words from the host of the Wild D podcast. And my own words, which I have already shared with you, my own personal life. That relationship with my mother and the damage that's done to past relationships and me having to go in some dark corners. See, when I say red pill, I mean red pill for me. See, I've accepted all of those things. See, some of these men, they want to be red pill when it's convenient. They want to be red pill when they say, oh yeah, women ain't shit. And again, I keep telling you, who raised that one? See, when we say women ain't shit, or yeah, my sister is this, she behaved this way. Who raised your sister? They won't ever hold her responsible. It's not in them to. But we're going to deal with that this episode. Who's created Blackistan that you live in? See, we love saying, yo, this is my brother, my black sister. We need to come together. And everybody wants to come together and save the black community. Yet anytime you get money, you get your ass up and leave. But you hold white cops and white people responsible when they treat those people in the manner in which they treat them, they don't understand the culture. You understand the culture, and your ass got up and left. So what would you think an outsider is going to do? But he goes to finish this verse and says, can't step in my pants, can't walk in my shoes, but everything you worth, you lose your tie and your shirt. Telling you, the regular 9-to-5 guy, that so-called educated lame, he don't understand that world. He can't survive in that world. Now, when he gets to the second verse, tell you I had to hustle my back to the wall, ashy knuckles, pockets filled with a lot of lint, not a cent, got a vent, a lot of innocent lives lost on that project bench. So when he's telling you I had to hustle my back to the wall, ashy knuckles, pockets filled with a lot of lint, we all know when you're raised in that environment, that feeling of going in both pockets and pulling them pockets out and just letting them sit there and pulling the lint and stuff out because you don't got a dime to your name. So you got to go get it. Now, again, we'll say Mama Loves Me, which Jay made a song, Mama Loves Me. Mama loved you enough to have you and raise you in that environment. That's not love. That's irresponsible parenting. And you can give it a pass once or twice. No, you give it a pass once. When you do it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times over, that's not love at that point. That child is a means to an end. That parent needs love from something because nobody else loves her. And she needs control. But we're going to keep going. What you hollering? Gotta pay rent, bring dollars in, buy the bodega, iron under my coat, feeling brave, a do-rag, wrapping my waves up, pockets full of hope. Do not step to me, I'm awkward, I box lefty. What you hollering? Gotta pay rent, bring dollars in. A teenager, I gotta get out here and hustle and bring some stuff home so the lights don't get cut off at home. Because mama can't hold us down like that no more. So now at that point, which is what we'll start off with from Thursday's episode from the Wild D podcast. When did you become a man? And see, for us, we think that's when we become a man. So you don't really become a man till you can become in control of your emotions. When you can sit and have thought-provoking conversations. You got a lot of adult males walking around. When you say man, that's when you're in a position where you can now impart knowledge on people. Like I say, I don't really feel like I became a man till I really went down the rabbit hole. So we would probably say 32, 33 years old for me. Anybody can provide. At 14, you can put 13, you can provide. That don't really mean you're a man because you provide. Because you're putting your penis in a woman's vagina, because you're making a child. It doesn't really make you a man at that point. But I'm going to keep going. An orphan, my pops left me. And often my mama wasn't home. Could not stress to me I wasn't grown. An orphan, my pops left me. But you see, an orphan because my pops left me. And often my mama wasn't home. So mama wasn't really there either. But again, it's like I told you. There's different levels to what we hold mama and daddy to. See, the second daddy falls short. He ain't a man in our eyes. He a coward. He weak. Mama falls short. It's the excuse making. She did the best she could under the circumstances. Who created those circumstances? She did. So at some point, you have to just take stock in everything you've done in your own life. That's when you truly red pill. When you can look and accept the truth for everything that's going on in your life. And at certain points, the majority of people are still blue pill. They want to halfway dance in the red pill when it suits them. But when it doesn't, or it's time for them to accept some hard truths, what they'll then start to do is tell you, oh, I don't want to talk about politics. Nah, I don't really want to talk about religion. Nah, don't give me no advice over here. I've been married 30 years. You've been married 5. What advice can you give me? Just because you've been doing something a long time does not make you an expert at it. Makes you an expert at it when you learn from it. Now, if you got life lessons to teach me outside of that, in that 30 years of marriage, then yeah, you got a leg up. But if I ask you what is marriage like in 30 years and you say, oh, it's just about commitment and figuring out a way to make it work. If that's all you can give me, then yeah, those 30 years of marriage advice, and I could have got that from somebody who not married, who gonna tell me something bland like that. But he told you, could not stress to me I wasn't grown. And you know why? Because he's providing now. And in his head, I'm doing what my father wasn't doing. So I'm a man now. I'm the man of the house. And these things manifested themselves with, like I said, now you'll see the salon situation pop up and how she said how disrespectful he was. And how you'll hear other women say, and how now he comes out and says, as a 50-year-old man, but I think he said like a year or two ago, how ashamed he is of the Big Pimpin' lyrics now, and how he listens, how his ears bleed listening to some of his earlier works with the way he was saying the word bitches and hoes. That's when you know you've grown up. That's when you know. When you can look back now and self-reflect and really self-reflect. Now, is Jay red pill? No. Because he still won't hold his mother and give her the same accountability that he gives his father in the situation. It's my mother wasn't around, but she just wasn't doing her part because my father abandoned us. So it's kind of that I won't hold her really responsible for the situation I'm in. No, you had brothers and sisters. She had you in this environment. She put you in this environment. She created this environment for you. That's not love. Maybe it may be what she thinks is, and it may be what you think is. But you don't really love a child if you put them in that environment. You knowingly know I'm getting ready to keep bringing children into this world and putting them in this environment to get gunned down. So you'll hear a lot of, like the episode I did last week, 5 children who died in a fire. And you'll hear the auntie make all the excuses in the world for the mother and say, oh, she loved her kids though. You don't love your children when you have 5 children like that. And I'm not really working. I'm struggling to figure out how to take care of them. And why would you keep having children if you say you love them more than anything yourself? Now it's something. It's some narcissism in why you had those children. And that'll be for another episode, but that's not love. To quiet the stomach rumblings, my demeanor, 30 years my senior. My childhood didn't mean much, only raising green up. Childhood didn't mean much because I didn't have a childhood. I was forced to be a man early. I was robbed of it. And see, my wife had her nephew here a couple weeks ago. And me and was playing the game. And I told him just, enjoy being a kid and a nerd. Because in 4 or 5 years, guess what? It's going to be over with. And when you get forced out into the world, you're going to have a whole lifelong time of you need to do this. See, the black man's biggest problem is he was never allowed to have a childhood. And now we think because we've turned out and we look at success as money. That's human beings' biggest problem is success is always tied into some type of financial growth. That's what defines you. That's what makes your ego. That in the size of your Johnson. That's what defines you. You ask people, what makes you successful, and you ask a person the question, yo, what is success? And don't say money. Watch what they tell you. They're gonna say having a family or providing. You'll never really be able to get somebody to define success without bringing money into it, because they don't see the world without that. That's just the way the world has been presented to them. There's no way to be successful without achieving this. And see, what you'll always find is those people will always be disappointed. Again, why you had a Robin Williams, guys like that, why they commit suicide. Because at a certain point, yeah, I got all the money in the world. I'm making people laugh and all of that, but I'm empty in the inside. Because when you become really red pill, you realize that money is just a means to an end. That's just, yo, so I can buy little trinkets and doodads and play around with video games and cars and clothes and stuff like that. But money should never define who you are. That should never be a part of your character. See, the first thing a black father loves to say is, I'm a provider. But that's the first thing you can say when they say, yo, what do you do for your family? And they ask you what makes you a good father. You have to say provider first, means you've done a shitty job as a parent. If you can't say my children and my wife feel emotionally protected at all times when they're around me, that's when you know you've accomplished something and you're operating on a different spectrum at that point. Because anybody can come in with a wad of cash. Anybody can provide financial security for somebody. That's just opening the wallet up. But what are the jewels you're going to get a kid? What's the life lessons you're going to get a young boy? This intro went way longer than I thought. So, like I told y'all, this is probably going to end up being 2 hours.
Battery 80%. Connected to LG Stylo 6 and Dr. Haskins' iPhone.
Sheesh. All right, go. But let's get started.
Joe were having, and we were reaching like the point where we were like, okay, what was the transition? Like, when did I become a man? And I feel to be your central point of contact, a man. And I feel like for me, there were many times in my journey, like even before I turned 10, that I was like, okay, I'm transitioning to become a man. There were times where I'm like, hey, I'm the man of the house because I'm the oldest male in the house. So I'm a man. But then I look back and I'm like, nah, I wasn't a man then. This situation.
Now you can look back at that. But in that moment, you're starting to think you're a man already. So now the testosterone is already building. And another man can't come in and tell you nothing. Now you sizing up the men who come in and out of your mother's life. Yeah, let me check dude out. It's kind of like on Baby Boy when Jody was always, yeah, I don't like Melvin and this and that and this and that. And Melvin had to put him in his place one day and say, only reason, call for your mama. Call for it. Only reason I ain't put my foot in your behind was out of respect for it. But as a young boy, we walk around with our chest out. And yeah, I'm a man. And we don't know anything at that point. We don't have any jewels to really give to anybody at the age of 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You ain't lived. Hell, you just really walked out the house good at 19.
But she put me into man status. And the last time that I was able to rest on it, it was like, I felt like I didn't really become a man until after I had a child. From your scenario, I want you to like paint that picture, like the first time you felt like, okay, you know what? I'm crossing that line to be that boy to that man status. And then now when you say like, okay, from that first situation, do you still feel like that? Or would you say like what you're achieving right now puts you at man status?
So for me, I'll say it began maybe, you know, right now I gotta make sure I'm putting those steps in. Nobody tell me anything, and if you got a good job because you're making the
All right, let's get to right
because here. You know, I'm my priorities straight. I'm in school, and I'm not letting nobody tell me no because I don't got a car or anything like that. So those are kind of things where I'm like, you know what, can't nobody tell me anything, and then you realize, all right, the it's a larger picture than that. So now you expand. You're like, all right, well, now I need to start working on making some money and getting finances in. And then you realize, all right, now you get a good job. You think you got a good job because you're making $100 or $200, you know, $300 a week or something like that. You're like, all right.
And notice, listening to all of these gentlemen, being a man to them it will all be tied. I won't say all, but so far for Finn, it was about providing. For this young man, it's about money. Manhood to them is all tied into money.
Good money, I can buy Jordans. Now I'm buying Jordans now. So now I feel like I'm more of a man. And then next thing you know, you broaden the picture out again. You like,
and it's why the suicide rates for men have jumped through the roof, because everything is tied to money. So now when that they lose that job, they lose sense of self now. It's why when they look and say, okay, I'm making $60,000 or $70,000, that's good money. But their ego is tied into the money. So now when they meet somebody who's making 110, 120, they feel less than. Because their whole sense of self is tied into the money. And it starts at a very young age. A very young age. Because you've always been seeking mama's approval, and you saw the hurt in her eyes, and you saw things and heard things you shouldn't have heard or seen as a child. But she allowed you to carry some of that weight. And you know, as a gospel song, that the Lord won't put more on me than I can bear. But he didn't put that on you. Your mother did. But you'll be walking around thinking the Lord put that on you.
So it's bigger than just, you know, 25,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? It's more of it's people out here that's doing more than that. So where's my more? And then ever since then, it's like, all right, where's my larger picture? Where's my larger picture? And that's kind of where. So every few years, you know, you get that larger picture show up in your life. And just like you said, you know, you thought you was a man at 13, and then recently, you know, to me, you've been a man pretty much almost my whole life.
Thanks for that story too. I think part of it for me is just like I always want to prove to myself that I can do more, right? And the way that I look at it is I move through life in different stages. So if you had to think about it from the standpoint of, let's say, I'm 10 years old and being the man of the house for a specific time, or 14 years old and I'm working and I'm helping out with the bills. And
now, be it your father passed away or your mother was a single mother, 10 years old, again, it's not your job, man. It ain't your responsibility. And see, those are the things I keep saying when we're raised in these environments, man. And we don't, as you guys like to say, there are men who have agendas and all these biases. No, man. All I do is give you real red pill talk. That's it. All I do is lay it right in front of your lap. I bring the drink of water to you. You can sip it, throw it out. But you can't say I didn't tell you. You won't be able to walk away and say you weren't aware of these things. Now you can take with it what you want to take with it. We're all individuals. Like I tell people, chew the meat up, spit out the fat. You take away from certain things what you want to take away from it. But what you won't say is you didn't know. At 10 years old, that's not your job. But again, we'll never hold mama responsible for us being raised in those environments. You understand the psychological damage that is done to you now as an adult male to have to step in a role at 10 years old. There's a lot to unpack when you have to step into a role of a man at 10 years old. You realize how much of your life you missed out on, those steps of evolution you were supposed to have that you couldn't have because somebody didn't do their due diligence and handle certain things correctly for you.
16, 17 years old, paying the mortgage, like those types of things might hit you a little bit. That you're like, I'm doing a certain
Right.
But it's like
16, 17 years old. Again, that's when you're supposed to be allowing a child to be a child. At that point, like I say with my oldest daughter, me working overnight and then coming back home, sleeping, working some more in the morning to pick my youngest daughter up. I did those things because I wanted her to just be able to enjoy being a child. So for me, with adults in the situation, I figure out all of this, how all of this will work time-wise, but that's not her job. That's not her job for me to be saying, hey, yo, you need to go get a job to kick in and pitch in around here. Or you need to be grabbing your sister at 3:35. I'm depending on you to do this. She didn't have that kid. See, when you're being accountable, then you're truly accountable. And then I know you'll say, yeah, but your pops could be deceased, or my pops wasn't around. The next question you have to ask yourself is, if he's not deceased and he's not around, who decided to sleep with him? Since it's, as you and your lovely wife stated, since it's her body, who should be held accountable for that? That she decided to sleep with him and have a child. Who should be held accountable for that? Because you have to understand, when you say it's my body, then you need to take full responsibility if you sleep with a knucklehead then and he doesn't stick around to raise that child. You cannot then say, let's share the blame. We can't have that conversation. That's an oxymoron. You can't say it's my body, but we both deal with the blame if you don't stick around. No, because if it was equality, as women want, then again, that man should be able to say, he should be able to sign his parental rights away. I don't want nothing to do with this. Because it is her body, right? She can do with it as she pleases. If she wants the kid, she can keep it. If she don't want the kid, she can murder it. She has two options. But we do have to hold her solely accountable then. If you want to say it's my body, then we have to hold you solely accountable for when that guy is not around. Because you made a life-altering decision for two people with your body.
How can I take it from where I'm at right now to keep growing and do more? And then all the time, I think part of the way that I kind of called it out from Joel, because I'm not going to say you're not a man. You know what I mean? For you, I'm not going to say you're not a man. I can't say that. For me, it was like I'm doing a lot of things for a lot of people. They could probably do it for themselves.
True.
Then I look at somebody that can't do anything for me, and I'm like, oh, okay. Now, no matter what, it's all on me. You know what I mean? And when I look at it like that, I'm like, okay, you know what? I crossed that line. I can never take a day off. Like that whole thought process of let's get in this work, let's get this work. It's like.
And see, when you say that, that's interesting. That you can't take a day off. And you have to deal with the mental stress you have to deal with. Yet when we talk about Simone Biles quitting, you felt the need to say, no, you need to deal with your mental health. Hey, my man, you have to understand.
Dr. Huskins' iPhone.
Tell her to cut her phone, disconnect her phone. You have to understand, though, that this is what this is. Quitting, it's not an option, man. And you have to understand, when you play with words, that's what you get when it's, yeah, I know I'm dealing with all of these issues, these everyday life issues as a man, and life is beating me up and all of that, but I got people who depend on me. Then you say that everybody's their own individual in this party. And that's fine. I agree with you. I do agree with you with that. Everybody is their own individual. But you're also stating right here, right now, that even though as an individual, somebody holds the lion's share of that team's success. So somebody can't really afford to quit. I'm just asking you to be consistent, my man, when you take your stances on certain things.
We have to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like what we are about to approach in life is about to be so big that we can't even see it right now. But we're gonna miss it if we miss this work. That discipline. Let's get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and let's get it while everybody's sleeping. It's something that we're chasing right now. We don't even know what we're chasing, but we're about to get it. And
You just going off of, oh, look, I'm gonna put this work in now, and the outcome is gonna be better. It's gonna be greater than where I'm at now, and that's all I care about.
I remember I used to hit you up. And
Now, see, the one thing this young brother will, I hope you'll understand one day later in life, is you can chase the bag all you want to. It won't fill any of those emotional holes you're feeling right now. Because the one thing you're going to have to deal with one day is the proverbial man in the mirror. See, once you get to a certain point monetarily, you're going to be done bought all the shoes you want, all the clothes you want. You'll have a nice car. You'll have a nice condo you stand in. You'll be able to basically get anything you want whenever you want. So then you'll have to look in the mirror and say, why do I still feel like this? Because now you won't be able to use the excuse of it's money why I feel like this. See, a lot of people mask a lot of the issues they have and a lot of the emotional issues they have by saying, it's because I don't have enough money. And they'll use that because they know you can never really ever have enough money. Most people won't get to that point. Now, you'll get to a point, and some people will get to the point where the high 5, low 6s, mid 6s, where it's just like, yeah, I can live comfortable and I'm good now. But that's usually when those people then start going to therapy, because they then start to have some understanding and some clarity that it's not the money why I feel like this. Why do I still feel so empty? Why am I still so anxious? Why am I still so jittery?
in the middle of my shift, man, I'm like, hey, man, what you doing, man? You ain't been doing that now. You've been sitting around chilling. You better move around. You're like, I've been moving. I've been getting up. I've been moving around. I remember those conversations. But yeah, that was the thought process. I think it's always about continuous improvement. And I can tell you this, if you take if you get those repetitions in, and no matter what you do, you get those repetitions in, when you look back, you're gonna be like, man, you know what? You're never gonna be satisfied. That's what that work is about. You're like, okay, man, I look good. I need to do a little bit more. You know what I mean? Okay, let me see if I can take it up a little bit more. Let me see if I can do a little bit more. And I gotta stay consistent. And then one day of not doing it, you're gonna feel it. You're like, man, I feel bad about myself, man. Well, I'm a failure. Y'all took one day off from the gym. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be like that for real.
Okay.
I remember growing up.
Now, you have to also understand when you get to that point, I took one day off. I am a failure. That means you don't ever take any time off for yourself. And you know why that happens? Because you're constantly in the mode of I need to save everyone else so that I can save myself. Your whole self-worth is tied into what you can do for other people. So you keep moving, and it's, okay, I'm doing this for my mother, my cousins, my brother, my sisters, my children. And you feel you get all this enjoyment because you're providing for everybody else. But there's no self-preservation for you, and you know why? Because you don't really love yourself. You don't know how to love yourself. You was never taught how to love yourself. And you know why that is? Because the first teacher and your first nurturer didn't love you. Now, that's a hard pill to have to swallow. It really is a hard pill to have to swallow. Because the majority of human beings, they're incapable of loving somebody else. See, We love to use love in terms of the word. It's just an action. How do you show someone that they love you? And I'm going to give you a quick example. You're in a relationship and you telling a woman, I love you every day, every day, every day. And you go tell everybody, we got a loving relationship. But the love she's giving to you is always putting too much salt in your food, not washing your clothes, always emotionally abusing you, putting you guys in financial situations where you can't get out of. Is she showing you love because she's telling you she loves you? Is that really love she's giving you? Because that's the situation most mothers have put their sons in. I need you to grow up and be a man at the age of 10, and I have you living in these hostile environments where these young boys are getting murdered day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. Welcome to Blackistan. How can you honestly look at that and say that mother loves that child if she constantly is bearing children, bringing more children into this world and putting them in that environment, knowing what the odds are that they won't make it to their 18th birthday? How can you honestly look in the mirror and say that's love?
I had aged out basically for child support. So instead of it going directly to my mom, it would come to me. Because my birthday was late, came in December, I was really a year behind in school, but I had another.
That story, real quick. I know I told you guys this before, but it's like I said, when I had to go in that corner and unpack that little box over there and start to really go into what was going on in my life, I was always raised to believe, yo, I'm providing for you. So the child support money that you do get should go to me because I'm providing for you. I'm playing both roles. No, that's not how that was supposed to go. That was supposed to be for me and my sisters. And like I said, when my grandmother died and my father got his inheritance from her, I don't know, maybe, was it like 20 to 30,000 they took from him where they held his passport. And like I said, my father's a musician, been traveling abroad, touring since I was born. So, that is what that is. But they basically put a hole in his passport so he couldn't move. So he had to pay it and release it. When that money came, my mother spent that money on herself and said, yo, this is just me paying myself back for everything I've done for you guys. But you'll have women say, yo, child support is for the child to live good. So if it's for the child, why would you keep it as an adult? Shouldn't you disperse it amongst the children? And if you've done enough, if you've cultivated those children correctly, will they reach back and make sure you get something, or they put something back in your pocket? Sure, they will. But when you don't give them anything at all, then what does that tell you? Those children were a means to an end.
6 months basically of high school as an adult, and the money would.
And when I say I didn't touch a dime of that 30 grand, not a dime. All I was told was I'm being repaid back for the 18 years of work that I put in without them. And for me, you can't miss what you don't have. And you feel a certain way about your father because you view him in the eyes of the way your mother viewed him anyway. So you're right. You should have it. Job well done. But now at the age of 40, I look back and you're able to see things. Like I said, when you take that red pill and go down the rabbit hole I've gone down, when you're willing to accept truth and have tough conversations, period, you're able to you don't have to deal with some ugly truths. And it's some truths that people just don't really want to have conversations with you about. And you have to then say, well, if you're not really willing to have these tough conversations with me, then what is my real purpose to you? And at that point, it's like I said, blood don't make you family to me. Never have, never will. It's what do I feel I'm getting out of this relationship? If I feel like it's a bond, if it's a close-knit bond where I feel like, yo, we both giving and taking, this elder is imparting wisdom upon me, then I'll look at that elder's family. If I feel like it's a guy I'm close to and it's just like, okay, that's my man, then I look at him as family at that point. Just because you blood don't mean we family. And it's why I'm not big on family reunions. Like, we're not going to have me here and it's, hey, I'm your cousin and I'm this and I'm that. You should come. Hey, man, we talk to each other once every 2-3 years when I pop up and show up here, man. We're not family. Not family at all. We blood relatives, and that's about it. And that's the way it's going to stay.
Come directly to me. So I felt like I was winning. But because we didn't have much, the little money I was getting, I had to give it to my brother so we could pay for his car note. So
now you have to hear that. I had to give it to my brother so he could pay for his car note. Now, who knows whether she forced him to, or at this point, Joel is playing the little big brother role where I'm responsible for everybody around me at this point. But again, still, you have to ask yourself, who put Joel in a position to have to play that role? And that's a question. One day, hopefully, me and Joel will be able to have that conversation. And I'll ask him, how do you feel about what that relationship did to you and how you evolved as a man? Do you feel like that relationship hindered any relationship you had going forward? Do you feel like there's a need to always want to save somebody because of that son-husband relationship you had with your mother? There's a lot of deep diving and unpacking that we always have to do. But until you can get in the mindset of self-preservation, see, that's the one thing I always tell people. And again, I'll say it again. My wife understands. Sunday, that's my day. During football season, Saturday and Sunday is my day. So whatever we're going to do, you got Monday through Friday. I give it all to you. But Saturday and Sunday is my day. When football season is over, I give you Saturday unless it's a big college basketball game on I want to see, or maybe a battle rap event on I may want to watch. But besides that, then Monday through Saturday, you can have it again. But Sunday, period, year round, no, you can't have that. That's my day to go into my brain and either withdraw or make some deposits. I'm usually withdrawing a lot of information and feelings and emotions I'm dealing with throughout the week that I need to get rid of. And I can put those in the right accounts and, okay, this goes in this account, this goes in that account, this goes in this account. We'll need to touch that again. They can just say over there, okay, well, yeah, this is garbage. We can donate that away then. Or this information and this subject, this is worth something. Let me sit this here and let me keep building on this. But as you heard Finn say earlier, no days off. No, brother, if you truly love yourself and you love your family the way you think you do, then there's going to have to be a day off. There has to be a day within the week where you can sit down and say, yo, this is my day. I don't really want to be bothered. I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. And it's the one thing that I look at when I look at my wife's father, and it's, yo, I got to get on the golf course. I have to. As he likes to say, it's peace and tranquility. But you need that time. You have to. You can drive yourself crazy. And you cannot be a better husband or father to your wife and your children if you don't do it. And those who love you will respect that decision. If they don't respect that decision, then now you need to start evaluating how much that person truly cares about who you are, or are they just there with you because you provide a service for them?
Again, I'm thinking about Boy Meets World, and it's like, why in the world is an 18-year-old, a fresh 18-year-old, paying a legitimate bill for a brother who's 3 years older? And I never thought about it until this conversation just now. What was that preparing me for? It was preparing me to be in that mindset that I might be doing okay, but if the next man isn't, is it my responsibility to help them out? Fan, you mentioned it, like when somebody is.
And it's not. And I'm not sure that prepared you for that. Now, that may be the lesson you got from it, and to each his own, because we all learn, we get out, like I said, you chew the meat up, you spit the fat out. You get out of it, whatever you chose to get out of that situation. But at 18, now you shouldn't be paying anything for a 21-year-old. As the big brother, he should have been reaching back to you saying, "Nah, little homie, you good. I'll figure this out." Because the bigger question is, why does he have a car and a car note that he can't handle? But it's when I go back to, you have to allow children to play the role of children. Taking on those responsibilities, that doesn't make you a more responsible man. It creates, and it will manifest itself somewhere down the line later. Now, you may not know initially where that's coming from when it manifests itself, but that's where it comes from. And this is, again, why when our culture compares ourselves to white culture and Asian culture, yeah, they let their children work, but they're not really asking their children like that to, well, I won't say an Asian culture because that's something different. But when we compare ourselves to white culture in this country, just allow a child to be a child, man. And see, this is really not even a black and white issue. You truly want to be honest with you. This is a man growing up in a gynocracy issue. And it's why you see the term mama's boy. Because is it your job to be getting up at 8, 9 at night and you get a phone call from your mother and it's, yo, I need you to come over here and move this dresser for me real quick. And you go take a 30-minute drive. Why couldn't she just wait till the morning? Or, yo, I'm on Saturday, I'll be up. Yeah, but I really need it done now. She started pouting and all of that, and that savior complex. It's that little boy. It kicks in again. I don't want to disappoint mama because daddy already did. And I saw the hurt that caused her. And I'm the man in her life now, so I'm going to just always go be there for her. That's not your job. Your mother chose her path in life, and you have to let her walk it. Be it good or bad, but that's the path she chose. Because what's going to happen is, the way she raised you, you're going to think that was okay. And you're going to raise your children that way. But see, the one thing that my uncle taught me was, he used to always say, and he even said it when I reached out to him Sunday, everything you feel I wasn't to you, I want you to be that to your child. And see, even all of the great things he said and did for me. Because I always tell you that is my father figure for me. That is the guy that I look at and it's like, okay, yes, 80, 90%. When most people say, yo, you cool a lot of times. Like I said, I've seen him in some crazy situations. In situations that as a child, I probably shouldn't have been witnessing between man and woman. But he always stayed cool as a cucumber with his wife. But never heard him yell at his wife in front of children or anything like that. It would always be, let's go upstairs or let's go in another room, and then they have a conversation. And to me, those things were always instilled in me from a kid. Yo, you just don't do that thing. You sit, take all of that, and you let her win right here, and then we can go have a conversation, not in front of the children. Now, while she's yelling and screaming, guess what? That's doing some damage to the way. That's taking chinks in the armor of Superman in terms of, like I said, the way you see your father is through the eyes of your mother. That's putting chinks in Superman's armor, be it on purpose, not on purpose. But you have to understand those things growing up, all of those, as you guys like to say, deposits, those deposits will be made. And one day it's going to be time to make a big withdrawal. Now, you have to be able to say, okay, so I think my uncle was a little harsh on me with hitting me with the paddle and all that. Yeah. So would I hit mine? No, but the one reason I would say I didn't, because it never deterred me from doing it again. I would just take another ass whooping again. So at that point is, what would I be gaining out of that? Why would I keep hitting somebody and that's not getting ready to change the behavior? In fact, it's just putting inside, it's instilling the value inside of that person of, if someone doesn't do what you say, then you just hit them. And then we'll see if they do what I say. That's not something I kind of wanted to instill in my children. So I'm not a fan of that. I'm kind of more of, like I said, I'll put them in the corner and you hold a weight over your head, or you hold the phone book over your head. And then we can have conversations. I try and be as open and as honest and make myself as humanly possible with my children as I can be. Now, of course, like I said, I'm 6'6", I'm a big guy. I'm a teddy bear. And I have a presence about me. So, you know when I walk in the room, you know when I'm in the room. And I really don't have to say much. But you'll know I'm there. So I get all these times, like I said, even when you have those situations now with my daughters or my wife, my oldest daughter or my wife, it's hard to talk to you. Do I yell at you? Do I scream at you? Do I judge you? No, not really. So why is it hard to talk to you then? Because it's the facials. Well, see, now you dealing with some other things then that don't really have nothing to do with me. So when you say it's hard to talk to me, you have to tell me what I'm actually doing to you to make you feel uncomfortable. Then it's, well, because you love so hard and we don't really want to disappoint you, and a look of disappointment is hurting and all. But it's like, okay, let's have a conversation. I just want the lines of communication open. So that's kind of the bag I'll go in. And that's the way I've always wanted to raise both my daughters. If you don't agree with something, question. You guys hear me say this all the time. Make an adult have a reason for why they told you. That used to always irk me when they were raising me to be a critical thinker, to be just do it because I said so. I don't owe you an explanation. But that don't really coincide, brother, with how you raising me. Like, you can't be telling me to always critically think, and then when something don't make sense and I ask why, because I'm an adult and I said so. So with my children, it's, if somebody tells you to do something and they can't give you a reason why, then just call me. And then I'll be the adult in the room and I'll advocate for you. And we'll get a response that way. And at that point, if that adult can't give me a reason for why, then my child just won't do it then. And it's just as simple as that. And I'll be the one to put my foot down and say, well, she just ain't doing it. Yeah, but I don't care if you're the adult. You need to have a reason for it. If you need somebody to do the chores, then just explain, this is how we operate here. You doing chores. This is teaching you responsibility. That's cool. But if you say go outside or go pick up this or go pick up that, well, why am I doing this? Most people will say, because I told you to, because they don't have a reason for why they're telling you to do something. They just telling you to do something. They just want to abuse authority at that point.
Is completely vulnerable or incapable of being totally independent. What is your responsibility? And because again, I always say I didn't have that balance, mom, dad. So it was just mom's perspective, older brother's perspective, grandma's perspective. I didn't know how to internalize that. So it made me.
So now he's telling you he had mom's perspective, grandma's perspective, older brother, I'm assuming. Could have some other older brothers, but the one is 3 years older than him. That older brother then is just you're being raised in a gynocracy. You're being raised in a situation where majority of us are to cater to women's needs. Now, who does that benefit at the end of the day? Because I'm going to always ask you to ask your lady this one question, man, if you think I'm playing. When you ask them to, mom, what do you are, or wife or sister or daughter, what do you identify yourself as? If she's your wife, it'll be a few things before she gets to wife. It'll probably be woman, mother. Hell, she might even tell you a sorority. But she may say Christian. She don't say a lot of things before she gets to wife. But that lets you know when she's stating those things where you in that relationship actually fall at. So I just want you guys to be mindful of that. When you talk to most women, they're going to say woman first. So women have a code they live by. So they're going to protect the code of the gynocracy before they do anything else. And then when they're raising sons to pander to women, those sons will then be what? The guard dogs for the gynocracy. Which is why men have the issues they have now. It's why we can't really advocate for each other. Because the second they hear, most men hear, especially most black men, they hear a man saying the truth about a woman, they get in their feelings. And see, for me, I already know you was raised by your mother at that point. See, when you start telling me how you feel about a situation and I'm telling you facts, we ain't got nothing to discuss anymore. See, I don't argue facts. Only crazy people argue facts. See, when I'm giving you facts and you start, yeah, but I feel, hey, man, I want to hear about your feelings. We're talking about what is right now. And when you're dealing with what is, that's just what it is at that point. If that leaf is green, it's green. Don't come to me saying, yeah, but I feel like it could be a little no, man, I ain't got time for that. You want to have an opinion conversation. And I don't got time to waste with opinions.
And it made me resent my brother. And my brother at the same time, he moved out. He wasn't even really trying to come back because he didn't want to be under them same rules we had to follow. So it's interesting when you think about Dwight, what you were saying.
Now listen, he resents his brother, but there'll never be any resentment, like I said, of who created this environment. Ground zero of this environment. And that's, again, when you truly, that's when a man's man goes into red pill rage, is when he realizes the biggest manipulator in it all was the one who bore him, the one who gave birth to him. When that realization comes, man, it's a lot of flower bringing and slow singing and drama bringing, man. It's a lot of crying in that corner. And it take a lot of walking, a lot of bench presses, a lot of weightlifting to kind of get through some of that emotional pain that you kind of feeling when you realize what a lot of this is.
And even the senses, which sense was being tested? Was that my sense of humility? Was that my sense of poise? Did I need to be a little bit more calm and be more empathetic? Or did I need to be like, no, this is my money that I ain't seen because it was going to you first. Now it's finally coming to me and I can't even do nothing with it. So I'm glad we're having this conversation because I believe, honest to God, I believe in my heart, somebody's going to hear this and it's going to help, because there's so many situations as men that we ain't got to put the black in there. As men, there's so many situations we go through where we got to be Superman and put that cape on. We don't even realize, this is connected directly to the workout. We don't even realize the reps that we're putting in when we're young, what our body's going to look like when we get older. And here we are, 5.
But now that you've seen the reps you've put in, are you able to hold the people accountable for what you have become and the way you feel. Because somebody had you doing some reps you shouldn't have been doing. Somebody had an 18-year-old who was $160 on a bench press machine throwing up 300 pounds, and he had no business at that point. And that's how torn pectoral muscles, that's how ripped biceps and stuff like that happen, because you're dealing with stuff you have no business. That weight too heavy for you at this point. You need to wait till you're in your early to mid 20s, late 20s to start handling the heavy work like that. You need to wait for your body to mature before you start doing that. So we're going to hit to this part real quick.
My siblings aren't homeless properly, but just I'm tied up about it in my whiskey. So whenever I get a little extra money, I'm gonna buy that, as opposed to people, especially as we get, because maybe I versus recognize.
Now this comes from one of the episodes I truly enjoyed. I really felt they was probably getting in their groove when they kind of got to this Family Matters episode, part 1. But I want you guys to hear some of these conversations again so you can understand. Probably just play like 10 minutes of this, even though I suggest you guys go listen to the whole episode. It's the You Overdose podcast, but if you search for it, it's the Wild D podcast.
That there's still a legit need. So, we ask a question like, what's your responsibility to your family or your obligation? Like, am I obligated to give a relative some money if they hurt me? Because maybe I have a little bit extra over here, or if I give that little bit extra away, now we're in the same boat. Like, where does the obligation begin and end? And that's something that I currently struggle with, because you see people, especially as we get older, and people still making the same choices. And it's generally based off of.
So now you have to ask, why do you struggle with it though? And it's why I keep saying there comes a point when we're maneuvering around out here. Well, what is going on? We're looking to save everyone else because that's the only way we can save ourselves. We don't ever have to do any of the hard work with us emotionally and mentally and unpack any of our baggage if we can stay busy. How do you stay busy? By saving everybody else. So as long as I have to deal with everybody else's issues, I don't really ever have to deal with my own. And like I said, when people come to me and they say, hey, yo, I want to be red pill. I'm ready to walk down that road. The one question I've asked a few men already who told me this is, are you ready to hold your mother to the same standard that you hold your wife and these women that you shit on? And until you can look at me and say, I can hold her and my grandmother to that standard, or my great grandmother, or my aunts, or my sisters, till you can hold the women in your family to that standard you hold everybody else, we can't have a conversation, because I know you're not really serious. I know at this point, you upset at some women you can see, and you see what they're doing, but you grew up in the same situation that you're upset that they are raising their children in. So then I have to ask you, well, have you had this conversation with your mother? Nah, she wouldn't understand. And me and my mother cool now. We don't really, I do this, do that. Okay, you say you cool, but if you ain't had a real conversation with her, you don't know whether y'all cool or not. You don't know what feelings you truly harboring until you can sit down and have a conversation with her.
That the tangible stuff that I need to have this type of car. I need to live in this type of a house. I need to wear these type of clothes or shoes, or I need this jewelry, or I have a vice around liquor. I love really, really expensive whiskey. So whenever I get a little extra money, I'm gonna buy that as opposed to doing something else that could take. You get what I'm saying? And I have had that happen to me so many times over that it has caused not I don't want to say problems in my marriage, but it's made us have some conversations that I didn't want to have, and to the point where I was like, well, you know what? I'm not even gonna say it to you anymore. It'll be about if I've got it. We've got our joint account, my wife and I, our joint account, the family. She has her own, I have my own. If I'm gonna do some helping, even if I'm tied up about it in my mind or my heart, that's where it'll come from.
But see, that's the problem. If you're tied up about it in your heart and your mind, you shouldn't be doing it to begin with. You're going to have to learn one day to choose you. You have to be the most important person in your life. Besides your daughter, that pecking order should be the child you're raising at this point, because that's the first responsibility, then you. There can't be anybody else over that. You can never tell anybody and have conversations about self-preservation and self-love if you're not at the top of your pecking order list in terms of who needs to be taken care of. See, when you drown in your sorrows and liquor, weed, all these extra women and all these things to just kind of get a quick high, that's not self-love, man. That's not self-preservation. That's you running away from some issues you don't want to deal with.
I'm not gonna take it from the family. And yeah, but the sad part is it still was a point of contention with my wife and I, where we had to have that conversation. And the takeaway was, you know what, whatever. I'm not even gonna bother with it. You know, I don't want to feel guilty or start resenting you or have feelings towards you because you don't want me to help out a family member. You get what I'm saying? So again,
but you have to understand, once you got married, and I keep stating this, I've stated this for the last few episodes, your first obligation now is to that covenant you made. If it can't be, then you shouldn't have said your I do's at that point. So I'm going to say this again. You can't be truly married to your wife and tell you to divorce your mother, your grandmother, your brothers and sisters. That box you have now decided to go step in and live in with your wife. You can't bring them along with you. Everybody can't go on this ride. And if you can't live that life, then you have to understand, hey, then I'm not ready for this mentally. Now, you may feel like it because, again, there's another person now you can do what? I can take care of. So now I have my brothers, my mother, my sisters. I got my wife. I got our child. I got all these people to take care of. I got cousins. I got all of these people to take care of. Then I got people at work I need to take care of. When do you take care of you? And you know why you're not hard pressed to take care of you? And a lot of us are not hard pressed to take care of us as individuals, that you don't really want to dig down into that box. You don't really want to answer to the questions that you really are asking yourself. And because you really don't want the answers to those questions, you're going to keep finding more and more people to take care of so that you never have to deal with it. And the day you have to deal with it is the day we end up like Robin Williams, where you just go in the bathroom and say enough is enough because you can't run from it anymore. There's going to come a day you cannot run from it. You will one day have to look in the mirror and deal with yourself.
it's still that tough line that I'm walking, and the obligation to my wife versus to a family member or to a close friend that's in need. Who trumps who? Or does the need trump the person or the relationship? This is just interesting when you think about it in terms of family mattering.
When you think about...
But see, when you say family mattering, if your immediate family is trumping your wife, then you have to understand the box you're putting your wife in. Because now you're putting your wife in a box to let her know you truly aren't family to me. And that's cool. But like I said, When I say I give you red pill, I give you red pill because I done been down these deep, dark circles, these holes, man. I've seen that looking glass. I've been down these rabbit holes. If you don't view your wife as family, be honest and say that. Say my obligations are to them first. I love them more than you. But be honest and state that. Now, if you then state, no, I love my wife more, or my responsibilities are over here, then now you have to ask yourself, then why do I feel the need to bring unnecessary energy, negative energy into this relationship with my wife, knowing that she comes first? Now, if she don't come first, then again, that's a conversation that you guys need to sit down and really become square with. Because the one thing I'll tell you in a relationship is, like I said, being in that 19-year relationship, being married 9 of those, is you can go through the motions and you can say every day, I love you. And I can do this. You can give advice. You can do all of that. But it's something festering in the inside. And when that resentment continues to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, somebody gonna check out. And when they check out, they ain't coming back. So you can, on the outside, make everything look good. Like I said, nobody had a clue what was going on in our marriage. But our best friend, that's it. Nobody on my end knew I was checking out. Like I said, I just made a conscious decision one day. I just got off work 6 a.m, came in the house. No, it was 7 a.m. Came in the house, called in the living room. Yeah, I'm done. I'm out. And that was the beginning of the end. And it was a tough decision, like I said, but it was something that was festering because we couldn't get on the same page. And yes, when we out, because you know each other so well, it's not hard to get into the role of finishing each other's sentences and playing a role for everybody. But like I tell my wife now, the man she got now is not the man she would have got 10 years ago. I did need that relationship to evolve into what I became today. I did need that relationship with my ex-wife's father to evolve into the man that I am today. I did need that relationship with my ex-wife's mother to evolve into the man that I am today. I needed those things. I needed to be able to see what that dynamic was like, how they treated each other, all of those things. How they still were there for their children, even as adults, how they never really requested anything of them, even growing up. I needed to see those things. And in order, once I saw those things, I was able to then do some unpacking of my own life and then go back and look and say, hey, yo, bro, you might have been taken advantage of, man. Maybe things weren't what you thought they were growing up. Because that's why I said, when you go down a rabbit hole in the looking glass, everything is upside down there. So now what is up is down. So now when you go down a rabbit hole, you start seeing things for what they truly are, which is why I advise people. You come down a rabbit hole, make sure that's where you want to go at that point. Because once you tiptoe down it, you'll never be the same again.
Those individuals that have their hand out, do you feel like it's come to a point where them asking may drive a wedge in your relationship or in your household?
The potential's there.
Gotcha.
And the reason I say that is I look at it a couple of ways. We never mind helping people that are there for us. And that's what I look for. Because the reality is, it's not about who's there for you.
You've made a pledge now to live with somebody every day. Come home to that person every day. Self-preservation starts at home. So if home ain't in order, you can't be good to nobody else outside the home. You can make it look like it, but you really can't be there for anyone outside of the home. Now, again, like I said, the second you say, I know the potential's there for this to drive a wedge in between my relationship at home, that's a red pill time to ask yourself, how strong is the bond in at home? Because either that foundation is weak and it's cracking, or it ain't no foundation to that and it's already cracking, or to this left, I'm getting some energy over here, and I feel a need to always have to save somebody that I really shouldn't be saving. Because if you're going to save adults, at a certain point, you need to understand that person got to take their medicine, and you're going to have to be okay with that. Because when people are constantly asking you for something, it's a bad decision maker. You have to ask yourself, why do you feel the need to keep bailing somebody out? That's not your job, man. Your job at a certain point is just to take care of home. That's it. That's why Dave Hollister made that song, man. Just take care of home, man. That's it. Life becomes way easier when you understand home. That's it. That's the foundation, home. If home ain't the foundation, I can tell you this. When that mild tornado come through one day, it will destroy that home. And when you're down south, there ain't no insurance to rebuild that. So now you got to do what? Come out of your own pocket. Now, since there is no foundation in that home, are you able to now come back with your wife, and does she now want to rebuild a new home with you? Or does she want to go at it alone? Or find someone else to build a home with? Always got to weigh the pros and cons of everything you got to lose in all of these situations. Everything. That was the one thing being raised where when I was telling my uncle about I was getting ready to get a divorce, and him and my mother came over to try and talk me out of it. Yo, I just wouldn't let another man come in the house and raise my children. I'm just not. For me, that's unfair to my now ex-wife, because she needs to go. The love she's looking for and the life she's looking for, she's remarried now. It's somebody who can provide that for her. But I need to now, if I'm saying self-preservation, and I need to now choose me before I do something irrational or drastic, I need to do what's best for me now. Which means I need to do what? It's time for me to check out. It's time for me to now choose me. And now I have to, as Jay would say, learn to live with regrets. I got to now be able to accept everything that's getting ready to come along with that. But when you're saying, you have to understand, when there's a wedge between family, both households, I'm not telling anybody where your loyalty should lie. But if it ain't in the household you living in, you ain't gonna be living in that household you living in too much longer.
Going to have their moment where they struggle with something, and that's okay. But when I'm down or when I'm hurting, are you there supporting me? Are you reaching out and talking to me outside of the times you're reaching out to ask for money? Depending on what the relationship actually looks like will determine how far I'm willing to go, even to the point where it causes a problem in my house. If I have a really, really strong relationship with somebody, I'm not going to put them over my wife, but I'm also going to make sure that my wife understands that, hey, this is a real relationship. This isn't somebody who just hits me up only when they.
Which you should. Because you have to prioritize also. At this point, my wife knows the pecking order for where she is. It's Livy, Zoe, D, then her. She understands that. Well, no, now it's Zoe, D, my wife, then Livy. Let me not say that. The dog then turned on me anyway. She look at my wife as her protector now, but not alpha. But that's fine. It's whatever. But she understands what it is. My two daughters, then her. After that, she understands ain't nobody else coming before her. That is where she stands in this. I'm quite clear on that. If they need me, you need to understand where you fall in between all of this. Anybody else, you'll have the final say, or your opinion will matter more than what theirs will. And why is that? Because that's who I pledged to now live the rest of my life with. And that's why I look at as my best friend. So with that relationship being that, I'm going to nurture and cultivate that more than any of the other friendships. Now, do I need a break from her and to be with other friends and breathe on my own? Sure I do. We all do. We all need a long time. We all need guy time. That's fine. But I will also say you need to be very clear the pecking order you hold your wife in, and you need to make sure she understands that and she's comfortable with that. And she's really comfortable with that, because women will tell you I'm comfortable with that until they're not comfortable with it. And you won't know they're not comfortable with it until you get divorce papers. Or you get hey, I stepped out. I did this. I didn't really mean to do it, but I did it. And, can we talk about it? But that's also why I tell you what. I'm big on boundaries, but that's why I set the boundaries with my wife is what? Just don't bring me a child from another man. I'm not raising that. And don't bring me a disease, an STD I can't cure. Besides that, we can have a conversation about how to get things back on track. Because for me, I'm smooth with anything. I told you that with the 3 episodes ago, and I said me having to basically terminate the back and forth between me and my mother, basically. When certain boundaries are crossed for me, that's it. Because with a man, that's all you really have. That's all I grew up knowing. All you have is your word. Some my uncle always told me. It's all you got. So when you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it. And that's a thing that a lot of people who know me know. My first thing is I see what I can do. I won't give you my word. I see what I can do. That gives me room to say either yay or nay. If I don't, once I tell you yes, then I'm doing it. Unless something happened where I can't do it. And at that point, I'll be able to share with you the information or what it is that truly happened. But even then, it's going to be something outrageous where it's just like, I had to cancel. I didn't have a choice. I had to go do this. But besides that, when I tell you that's what this is, that's what this is at that point in time. So
Eat something. We have something real, and you know it because you're my wife. So my hope would be that wouldn't become a point of contention, but I can't control somebody else's emotions. But yeah, to your question, it absolutely has made me question that, and it came up. It wasn't like a fight where we were against each other and mad and big blowout or anything like that, but it was like, hey, when it comes to this, I'll do it from here. We don't need to talk about it. I'll just do it this way instead of always bringing it to you. And that could be an issue for her that maybe she doesn't really talk about in great detail. But yeah, people can definitely affect your space. They can ruin your day. They can ruin your marriage. They can ruin other relationships. So
they can't really ruin it. You allow them the space to bring that energy into ruin it. And again, that's why I say accountability. You have to be then accountable to say, I allowed them to bring that energy into this space to cause X, Y, and Z to happen. Because they just didn't bring it in. Somebody had to open the door for that energy to be brought into that space. Now, when it's brought into that space, if someone who's in that space tells you, hey, yo, I feel uncomfortable about this, then now you got to make a decision. Do I side with this or do I side with that? Now, if you side with the left outside of the home, then again, you need to be able to live with whatever's going to come with that. But you can't ask somebody to understand someone they tell you, I have a problem with this. Now, there can be a way you come to a compromise, which you've stated you have. So, boom, you'll take care of it out of your end. Won't ever have to come out of anything joint. And that's cool. And everything moves forward from there. But there can't truly be a marriage between man and woman until he divorces mother, sister, and the rest of that side of the family. There has to be a divorce from that side of the family.
It behooves us to be very cautious in the way we deal with other people, especially when it's family. And again, family isn't just your blood. It's those people that are, because some friends are closer than family members. So it just depends on who the person is.
Joel, I have to do it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Here's a scenario, and please feel free to put the mirror back up at me. I ask these tough questions, and hopefully I'm willing to answer them as well. But you have, I guess in your experience, right? As you think about, we're two black males, and you have your mother, you have your wife, and you have your daughter. Out of those three, which one is the easiest one to say no to? Keep in mind the family matters. I know it's tough.
Yeah.
But you have that everybody's gonna have some type of need.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes those needs come up at the same time. Right? So from that perspective, which one is that? I mean, how do you rank? Because it has to be some type of order that you go through to say, okay, this is where I have to weigh my options, or say, okay, I put the weight of the relationship here versus there. Now, if everything's good, then yeah, you can say, okay, look, my mom needs something, I need it. And I'm just thinking about it from a black male perspective.
Yeah.
Considering family, usually mom is always there. You look at anybody who's won a championship, won a big time game, or I remember Kevin Durant going back and saying, hey, you're the real MVP. Black mom is usually there and holding down the black male in the household. Just and what's been put out there, right?
So I'm gonna tell you like this, and I'm gonna be as truthful as I possibly can here. My daughter is probably the easiest for me to say no to right now. With her being 4, a lot of the things that she may want, if it's a need, she's going to have whatever the need is off top. So she's probably going to have that first, even before my wife, because my wife will put her before or herself as well. So my daughter will probably be the easiest to take care of, but also the easiest to say no to, because the nature of the request. Where I find it interesting, though, the challenge is with my wife and my mother, because my mom does not ask for much. So when she does ask for something, whether it's me to help come move a bookshelf or anything like that, that's priority off top. And I like to think that my wife understands that, because she knows my mother as well. My mother is just not the type to have a bunch of needs. But if it was a matter of my mother's need versus my wife's need, I think my wife would take a back seat to the need of my mother, for a couple of reasons. Age being one, 2, just the intentions of being selfless. And I'll be honest with you, and I'll say this too. The thing that's interesting about marriage is that a lot of times I believe, especially dealing with all of the married couples that I deal with because of the business wife and I have, I think it's a lot of times husbands say yes as opposed to saying no, because they just don't feel like dealing with the fight that could ensue after, which is an interesting concept, but it's real. And I've seen it over and over and over. And a lot of men will allow the outcome to take place that they foresaw, like, hey, this is not going to turn out good, but hey, I can't tell you grown. You have to go ahead and do what it is you want to do. So again, for me, if I had to have a pecking order, easiest to say no to my daughter, then my wife, then my mother will be the hardest.
And that leads to, again, as you heard Finn say also, the black mother's the MVP of the black household. She surely is. Like I said, like I said in prior shows, she is the MVP. She is the leader. We undoubtedly live in a matriarchy. I give you all of those things. As you already know, I'm going to say there, nature, nurture. Since we know it's not nature, who's nurtured the environment that we live in? Who's nurtured the behavior in which we behave in? So, according to the American Psychological Association, covert incest is a type of emotional abuse. It occurs when a parent or caregiver consistently violates the normal boundaries between themselves and the child. Therapists sometimes call this emotional incest or enmeshment. In an emotionally incestuous relationship, a caregiver depends on a child for support. This reverses the norms of parenthood, means that the child has to prioritize the needs of the adult, i.e. us having to provide and do man things at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, 16, 17, 18, 19. Again, me needing to know that my brother is playing the drums at one of my father's concerts that I wasn't at. Didn't even need to know it was there, but me needing to know these type of things to do what? Shape my view of who my father is. In some cases, the adults treat the child as if they are a romantic partner. However, what makes covert incest distinct from other types is that no sexual contact is involved. Emotional incest is also different from a parent or caregiver and child having a close relationship. In cases of covert incest, closeness results from the adult prioritizing their needs over those of the child, harming the child's well-being. And again, that's what? Yeah, I know me sleeping with this guy is going to lead to a baby and me having children that I can't take care of and me having to raise them in this impoverished area and them having to fend for themselves and help raise their little brothers and sisters or raise their older brothers and younger sisters and be the man of a situation they shouldn't have to be in. But I need sex right now. That's what's most important to me is sex. What's most important to me is not being alone right now. So this is why I'm going to make this reckless decision to have unprotected sex and have a child. Because like you heard stated in the beginning, abortion is what? That's her decision. It's her body. So if she's choosing to have that child, you have to then ask yourself, why is she bringing that child into the world? Examples of covert incest. The following examples come from anecdotal reports from people who have experienced covert incest. A parent or caregiver may be engaged in this behavior.
LG Stylo 6 disconnected. Ready to pair.
All right. Rely on the child for support. This may include confiding in them about their relationship problems, looking to them for comfort or reassurance, or asking the child for advice that is inappropriate for their age. And again, we've had to do that. I'm bringing this guy over. Tell me what you think of him. Why are you asking me at 15, 16 what I think of a guy? Why do I need to be here to hold you and wipe your tears because a man broke your heart? Why do I need to now feel the space of the hole my father left? Put their needs before the child's. The caregiver may expect frequent praise and affection from the child or wish to feel that they are the most important thing in the child's life at the expense of the child's other relationships. Again, you must divorce your mother before you marry your wife. Otherwise, there's going to be a fork in the road you're going to come to. And you're going to ask your wife to continue to make concessions so that you can continue to be a husband to her and your wife. You're two-timing on your wife. You just don't realize it. And it's why I keep saying we suffer from Stockholm syndrome. Invade the child's privacy. This may involve invading the child's personal space, frequently or preventing the child from having a space of their own. The caregiver may also do things that, and see, when they do that, that's them taking the door off the hinges. You don't need this door closed. Don't lock no doors around here. Why not? Stay wrong. Hey, my youngest daughter, she been here, the last week? She stay with that door closed. She come in, sometimes it's locked. But if you need your room should be your sanctuary. That's the place you can go for privacy and be at peace and at one with your thoughts. You should be entitled to that. And when someone doesn't allow you to have that, again, you have to ask yourself why. The caregiver may also do things that make the child feel uncomfortable, such as ignoring the child's wish for privacy when they are nude or being nude around the child. Again, when your mother's getting dressed in front of you and she's just fine with walking around the house just butt naked. See, I've always had a problem with that. That's why I always tell my daughters, put some clothes on. We don't got that type of relationship. But it's just us. Yeah, that's cool. You're not going to be walking around the house with me in it, in a long t-shirt and just underwear on. That's not going to happen under my watch. And so you'll have certain men who will say, well, those are my children. I'm not going to do nothing to them. Yeah, but I don't want them, if it ever comes a point I'm not here, I don't want them thinking this behavior is comfortable because they're at home. Yeah, it's comfortable and it's okay if you live alone. But if mom is dealing with another guy and you still walking around like that at 16, 15, 16, 17, now you have the shape and the body of now what? A woman. So now when your mother is 40, 45, 50, you have a 50-year-old man staring at you is young, hot meat at that point. I'm not cool with that. I've always told him, you put some joggers on. Put my joggers on or whatever. Put my shorts on or whatever. I don't care, but put some clothes on. But it's the same as women. Mothers who love to just walk around the house braless in front of their sons and just t-shirt on, no underwear, things like that. Like it's weird behavior. It's weird behavior. Treat the child like a romantic partner. This could involve the caregiver taking the child on dates, discussing their sexual experiences, or inappropriately commenting on the child's body or appearance. The caregiver may also insist that the child call them names typically reserved for adult partners. Like you'll have women come in the barbershop. Yeah, this is my little man. This is my little baby right here. He look just like his father. She come in dressed to the nine. He's 6 years old, 5 years old. We going on a date. She come to get him fresh and get a haircut. He got a pair of Jordans on, jeans. They dress just alike, like they're a couple. Because the Gynocracy is already at work. She's already creating that husband-son hybrid. Now, again, you don't realize this because it doesn't manifest itself. Into you thinking, that's my job to take care of my mom. That's not your job. That's an adult. Now, you live with it, that's a different conversation. When you're married, that's not your job anymore. Feel jealous of the child's relationships. When the child becomes an adult, the parent or caregiver may become jealous of their romantic relationships. They may compete for attention, intrude, or attempt to sabotage them. And see, that's when you'll get the random, hey, can you come over here and move this stuff around for me in the basement? Or, yeah, it's these men acting. I've been seeing these men robbing, cars been getting broken in around the house. And I saw this guy staring at me funny last night. And yeah, I just don't feel safe in the house. All right, I'm on my way over to kind of check things out. Or yeah, I'm getting ready to take, my back hurt, but the garbage needs to be taken out, lawn needs to be mowed. All right, I'm on my way over. I'll take it out. I'll mow the lawn. All of this. I'll get those things done. It's a way for her to always know that when she calls, you're going to jump. That's how this works, man. I keep telling you, the way the Gynocracy moves, it moves very subtle. And their strength is different than our strength. Their strength is to do what? They learn how to control you and manipulate you emotionally. See, a man's thing is he's going to put the iron fist down. He's going to try and do it physically through intimidation. No, she's going to do it through rubbing on your head and telling you she loves you. But it's all manipulation. It's all a way for you to act right. A caregiver does not have to do all these things to engage in covert incest. A relationship is covertly incestuous if there is a consistent lack of parent-child boundaries. Once you are now the man of the so-called man of the house at 10, 11 years old, the parent-child boundaries are over with. And now you've entered into a whole nother world. You just haven't realized it. Caregivers who engage in this behavior may not realize that this is harmful. That's Gynocracy's talk right there. The child involved may feel that the relationship is simply special or that it cannot be abusive because it does not involve sexual contact. Exactly. The manipulation and indoctrination runs very deep here. But see, when they say this behavior may not realize that it is harmful, that's them again trying to act like people are maneuvering around, not knowing what's going on. This behavior they've been behaving this way and teaching this way and maneuvering this way. Black feminists and black women have since the 60s. So now we 60 years of this behavior. At this point, to me, you know what you're doing. There's enough evidence to show that you shouldn't be having these children. There's enough evidence to show that you shouldn't be raising these children this way. There's enough evidence to show, hey, let me be very mindful of the man I'm sleeping with unprotected wise and who I'm willing to have a child with, because I'm going to need a positive male role model in that kid's life. And since they're still moving around reckless and not doing that, then to me, you're doing it on purpose and you're doing it to fulfill other needs. What are the effects of covert incest? Health experts do not know how common covert incest is, and little researches on its effects exist. However, psychologists in this field claim that the impact on their clients is similar to that of physical incest. In his book, Silently Seduced: When Parents Make Their Children Partners, psychologist Kenneth Adams states that covert incest can cause, I need to make sure I bookmark this so I can get this book, a love-hate relationship with the caregiver, feelings of abandonment toward other parents or caregivers who have left the household or are allowing the behavior to continue. I.e., again, when you heard the co-host on the Wild D podcast state what? I had some resentment because my brother jetted on me. And he left me here to kind of deal with these rules. See, these things, like I said, they manifest themselves, but if you don't really want to deal with the issue, then you'll keep thinking what's going on is something totally different than what it actually is. Difficulty identifying and fulfilling personal needs because the person is so used to caring for others. And what did you hear me state at the beginning of the episode? We love to take care. We love to save everyone else. So what? To save ourselves. Our self-worth is tied into what we call selfless acts and taking care of others. It makes us feel worthy at that point. We don't know how to operate without being in that mode at that point. Feeling inadequate and unworthy. You feel inadequate and unworthy when you don't have anyone to save, which is why you're always looking to save everyone. Sexual dysfunction, compulsive behavior or addiction. Difficulty forming lasting intimate relationships. And see, again, this is where people will either, you have food addictions, which is things I dealt with. And it was when I got out of that environment, you start realizing, oh, you just, at this point, you're eating just to eat. Like you eating to soothe yourself at this point. You're doing a lot of emotional eating. Or you're trying to find the next addiction to kind of bury yourself in to keep your mind off of that. And like I said, once me and my wife started living together, I started realizing like, I don't even really care to really eat bad like that. Like it don't even bother me not to really eat pizza and those terrible things anymore. So unless you know how much emotional eating you are doing, or if some just don't eat at all. Some have addictions where they go to the gym every day because that's what they're dealing with. Some addictions some people have porn addictions where they love to watch. You'll have young men who love to watch mature adult porn. And in terms of when I say mature, I mean old people. Because it's a weird fetish with men of, it's wrong to have sex with my mother. You heard R. Kelly say that. That's the first woman I ever loved. And he was like, I used to have wet dreams about my mother and having sex with my mother. So there are men who then just want to watch 50, 60-year-old women have sex because that's around the age of their mother. So they get some type of self-satisfaction of having sex with somebody that age or the imagery of it. Because I can't have my mother in that way where my mother feels all the other emotional roles, just not sexually. So now I can have this addiction to porn to watching women this age, close to my mother's age, and I can get all of the gratification now. Potential causes. However, the anecdotal evidence from therapists suggests that covert incest often occurs when a parent's or caregiver's emotional needs are not being met by a partner or spouse. This may be due to relationship dysfunction or breakdown. A lot of this is our mothers didn't have fathers, and this is how they were raised. Infidelity, divorce, abandonment. And again, a lot of our mothers didn't have fathers. So they have those abandonment issues. Then some you have your father dying when you go into bereavement. Then you have the last one, domestic abuse. And that's where the child is kind of always, especially the son, will always try and step in front of the punches for his mother. And that's where that bond will grow and it tightens up at. As a misguided attempt to cope, the caregiver may turn to their child for comfort. Mental health conditions and substance abuse may also contribute, which is, again, self-medicating. They smoke weed a lot, depressed, anxiety. There's a lot of things they're going through. And who do they look to take care of those needs? The son has to come in and do that. And again, he's never been allowed to take the proper steps in evolution. So guess what? He's gone from infancy stage to the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old stage straight to manhood. And again, it's like I said, it's why when they get men getting in their 30s and 40s and 50s, now they want to buy motorcycles. These midlife crises happen. Now they want to buy motorcycles, and now they want to get knee deep, heavy into video games, things like that. It's kind of like I told you, is that when I talk about Michael Jackson, I don't believe Michael Jackson molested those boys, but we look at it as weird because you see an adult doing what? Doing childlike things. And it's very weird to us to see that. But all he wanted to do was relive his childhood. They took it away from him. He was forced to do it. And I know you say, well, that don't matter because his father and mother was there. They was married. But guess what? At 6, Mike was singing. Mike was the money. He was the get out of the hood card for the whole family. So guess what that was? That was the responsibility was on Michael Jackson at that point to continue to keep performing and providing all of this for his family so that they could live with. And once that happened, he missed his whole childhood. So now you become an adult and I just want to ride roller coasters. I just want to play video games. I just want to sit around and have sleepovers, things I didn't do as a child. But you will have adults look at it because some of these adults have been molested as children. So now they look at it and say, why is a man hanging with children? Well, it's only weird to you because you've been molested, and that's the way your mind operates now. Like you'll see the picture floating around social media with the man taking a bath with his daughter, with his, what was it, like a year or two, but he in the bathtub with swim trunks on. Yeah, he a pervert. Why? Because he's taking a bath with his daughter with swim trunks on. They basically playing in the water and he bathed in it. But because so many of these women and men have been molested by these weirdos and these creeps, and again, we won't hold who's accountable for who brought that man into that house. Because again, like I said, even though you was a crack fiend, you always was a black queen. And like Fan says, she is the MVP of the black community. Hey, the black community. There you go, man. Recovering from covert incest. Steps a person can take to begin healing from covert incest includes having a therapist. A qualified therapist can help someone understand what happened to them during childhood and provide a judgment-free space for them to talk about it. And I advise a lot of black men to start going to therapy. Joining a support group. Some people find it beneficial to communicate with others who have had similar experiences. If you guys ever need to reach out, like I said, I'm going to start putting my social media stuff in the descriptions. If you guys need to reach out, hit those links, DM me, whatever. If you guys want to come on the show to just vent, I'm here. I'm here to bounce questions off of on the show, off the show. I get some of you guys who want to do it already. I'll do it already in my Facebook Messenger. That's fine. You know, like I said, at this point, I just want to know when I leave Earth, I put enough content out to kind of help people. That's it. Establishing boundaries. If an adult child is still in contact with their parent or caregiver, they may need to establish healthier boundaries. An individual may also need to practice setting boundaries with other people, such as romantic partners, friends, or their own children. And again, this is why I tell you guys, I'm big on boundaries. Once you cross a boundary, there is no coming back from it. Because for me, that's the ultimate sign of disrespect. When I give you this line, you cross that line, that's it. I'm out. Like you don't get another chance. Because at that point, now I have to move the line back some more to give you a chance to recross it again. I don't have to get slapped but one time. I ain't a turn other cheek person. In every relationship, I'm going to give you boundaries. Certain men know, hey, I don't play with that B word. I don't play with that SMD, that inviting me to your genitals. I don't play with none of that stuff. Don't play with me like that. You play with me like that, that's it. That relationship's over. I don't want to hear, oh, dog, you took it too serious. I was playing. If I asked you not to do that, don't do that. It's why I tell people also when we have these LGBTQ conversations, somebody says, refer to me as they, him, her, she, whatever. If it's a woman who now says I'm a man now says I'm a woman, I want to be called Letitia, even though your name used to be Larry, then that's what I'm gonna call you, Letitia. That's just respect. That's all I require out of people. I'm gonna give it to you, give it to me. Taking medication. If a person who experienced covert incest has depression or anxiety, medication may help manage the symptoms, excuse me. For anyone who believes that they may have experienced emotional incest, help is available. Mental health treatment may be especially beneficial for people who also have depression, anxiety, or a substance abuse disorder. Summary. Okay, let's do this too. It's suicide prevention. If you know someone at immediate risk of self-harm, suicide, or hurting other people, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24 hours per day, 1-800-273-8255. In summary, covert incest or emotional incest occurs when a parent or caregiver relies on a child for the support that an adult partner would usually provide. They may also treat the child like a romantic partner. Covert incest is different from physical incest because it does not involve sexual abuse, but it too causes harm. According to some psychologists, covert incest and physical incest have similar effects and prevent children from learning how to form healthy boundaries. A therapist with knowledge of covert incest or enmeshment may be able to help someone understand their caregiver's behavior, its effects, and how to begin to move forward. So again, in closing, as we wrap this up, you have to understand having to be forcing a boy to be a man. Let's start there. That's where this all starts. You guys have children, allow those children to just grow up and be children, especially us raising young boys. Allow them to just be boys. They got more than enough, they got a whole life ahead of them of being a man and dealing with that. But allow them to take the natural steps of evolution. Having to be a father and a husband and a son and big brother to your mother and brothers and sisters. Like I said, I understand that role already. But you put in certain situations where it's, can you watch them? Can you watch this? Keep an eye on them. Make sure this homework is done. Hey, I'm counting on you to do this. I'm counting on you to do that. And for you thinking I'm getting all this responsibility and I'm doing all of this. But as you become an adult, guess what that does? Now that I have 2 daughters, I still look at 3 sisters as people I need to hover over. And I shouldn't be looking at them that way. I should just be looking at them as my sisters, not as, like I always tell you, my youngest sister, I almost look at her as an extended, as just my oldest daughter almost, to be honest with you. And that shouldn't be the case. I shouldn't have been put in that position to have to play that role. Seeing a therapist. For those who don't want to unpack things by yourself, go see someone and deal with a lot of those issues. Because we live with a lot of stress, man. See, you have women who outlive men on a large scale, but men die young because men hold all of the stress. There's nowhere for us to be vulnerable at the end of the day. It's like you heard Finn say at the beginning of the show, no days off. No, you need to at least take a day off a day. Not a day off from work, but you need to, whatever it is you do to pass time away and you enjoy, you need to dedicate a day to just say, I'm going to be in that environment and I'm cool. I'm putting all of that other stuff to the side. It'll be there waiting for you the next 6 days, I promise you. But women, what do? They are allowed to come and dump all of their emotional baggage on us. They'll cry, do all those things. So they're relieving the stress. We don't feel comfortable crying in front of our ladies. Let's just keep it a buck. That's not the way we was raised. And you're being raised by men who were raised by men who say what? Men don't cry. But then when you don't have a man in the house, you got a woman telling you what? The person you really should be vulnerable with. But she's trying to teach you to be a what? Something she has no idea, being a man. So what does she tell you? Yeah, you shouldn't be crying as no boy. No, a boy should be crying. Let him get in touch with his emotions. He needs to feel all of that. The pressure of marriage and fatherhood. There's a lot of pressure to act right and be everything to everyone. Be it when you're married to your mother and your wife. But you have to understand you're going to have to divorce your mother in order to fully be married to your wife. And again, like I said, what's going on in these communities is nature versus nurture. We know it's not nature. So you have to understand who nurtured the men and women who behave like this in our culture now. Like Finn said, she's the real MVP. It's your boy, the Hood Nerd. I'm out.